Next, for questions, I recognize Senator Ossoff joining us virtually.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Secretary Vilsack, for your service and for your testimony today. Farm workers in Georgia and across the country make it possible to feed the American people and indeed for the United States to help feed the world. And yet the stories that I've heard from so many farm workers are truly appalling. 20-hour shifts, folks who are sleeping in vans, exposed to extreme heat, exposed to pesticides and chemical fertilizers without adequate protection, making very little money, often paid less than a minimum wage, often subject to other forms of abuse and harassment. Do you believe that these conditions do prevail, as I've heard from so many farm workers in too many places across our country? And what policy reforms must Congress enact in order to ensure that those who are working in the fields to feed our country are treated with the respect and dignity that every human being deserves?
Senator, the Farm Workforce Modernization Act does provide an opportunity for additional support for these farm workers. It obviously provides an opportunity for them for decent housing. It creates the ability to ensure that they have adequate opportunities for protections in the event they get hurt in workers' compensation, things of that nature. It reforms the H-2A system, which provides a series of protections as well so that more folks can benefit from that system and makes it easier for farmers to utilize that system. Nearly 50% of the H-2A workers we have today come from 5 states, one of which is your state of Georgia, as well as the chair's state of California. So at the end of the day, it creates a mechanism by which people understand what their rights are able to protect themselves through normal processes. There's a mediation process. There's a shortening, if you will, of the ability to raise concerns about working conditions so that people can get relief sooner. There are a series of steps. Again, this is a compromise bill. And I think it's really important to emphasize the fact that people from all political spectrums have come together in support of this bill because they understand and appreciate how central it is to better working conditions and a stronger and more stable farm economy. And so I would hope that what you've explained are very limited circumstances in agriculture today, and the hope would be with this act that we would see even fewer of those circumstances.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Of course, the pandemic has put tremendous strains on agricultural supply chains as well as disrupted labor markets. But taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, what are some of the most significant challenges that, in your view, Georgia farmers and farmers across the country face in their efforts to hire farm workers?
Well, it starts with the cumbersome process that requires multiple applications, a lot of paperwork, not the use of digital technology to make it simpler and easier. And that discourages or makes it more difficult to get the workforce on a timely basis. So it starts there. And the result of that, I mean, the reality is timing matters. Timing is everything in agriculture. If you don't plant at the right time, if you don't harvest at the right time, it impacts and affects the quality of what you produce. And that in turn impacts the price that you get in the market. And in turn creates challenges for farming operations. So to the extent that we have a stable and secure system that's predictable, it allows farmers and ranchers and producers to plan expansion opportunities, allows them to be as efficient as profitable as possible. It also creates the protections we talked about for workers and ensures that there's an adequate wage, decent housing, and things of that nature for our farm workers who work incredibly hard. And I think it begins to send a message about the significance and importance of this essential workforce from a perspective of respect. I think for far too long we've taken these people and those who work in our processing facilities for granted. We've not paid as much attention to them as we need to. But you know, when it came to protecting our food supply during the midst of the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, those folks showed up. and they showed up at the risk of their own lives, and did so in large part because they were motivated by making sure that they could take care of their families. And that's a value system I would hope that we would continue to support in this country.
Well said, Mr. Secretary, and we should indeed be guided by our commitment to the human rights and human dignity of each individual, and these farm workers deserve far better. And with the chairman's indulgence, my final question for you, Mr. Secretary, grateful for your recent trip to Georgia, your visit in particular to Fort Valley State University, and your continued expressed commitment to Georgia farmers. Will you commit that the next time you come to Georgia, you'll sit down with me, local agricultural leaders, as well as those who are leading Georgia's trade efforts? Of course, we have the Port of Savannah, one of the fastest growing ports in the country, to discuss how we can work together to expand Georgia farmers' access to export markets around the world.
Senator, if you sweeten your offer with a slice of pecan pie, it's a deal.
Done. Looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks for your help. Take care.